So welcome to this second video featuring the MG4. MG Malta were kind enough to let me take or keep the car a bit longer than usual. So I am going to have a go at driving it today. I have already been doing so I've already formed some opinions here. But we'll be going for a drive here on this Saturday, coldish Saturday afternoon for Malta. It's 14 degrees Celsius, which for our hot country is quite cold. And that's important because we are going to be talking about the efficiency ratings of this car. If you haven't seen it yet, make sure you check out my tech-focused review on this MG4 where I dive into everything from the battery to the electric motor to the regen strengths, etc. This video is going to be more about the driving experience. But besides that, welcome to another episode of The Future is Electric. So I mean, my first impression, like to be honest, you've heard from a lot of reviews already probably, is that this is a quality car at a very good price. A little con I found about the car driving it around this morning is the cabin noise. Now, to be fair, it is quite windy today, but the cabin isn't as sealed as I've seen on other EVs. Now, I have to remember, coming from the internal combustion era, one of the things that manufacturers are really placing an emphasis on is the noise all the components of the vehicle make. Because given this new nature where you've got an essentially noiseless electric motor running the vehicle, then everything else starts to sound very loud. And if I was to complain about one thing about this MG4 is that, especially as you get up to some speed, you do start to hear a bit of noise, window noise here in the cabin. But obviously I've got the radio off, so it's a completely quiet environment. Besides that, you do start to feel that rear-wheel drive motor does push you along quite nicely. It's quite a powerful electric motor as well. 0 to 100 in under 8 seconds, making it one of the faster electric vehicles to 100, especially in this category of vehicles. I mean, the driving position is very comfortable. I have very good visibility in the front. The back, not so much, but few cars give you good visibility at the back these days. That's why you have to rely a lot on the sensors. Speaking about sensors, actually, has played a huge role in the 5-star safety rating this car has been given is the auto lane keep option. And it's a system which is going to detect those road lines, and the second you start drifting into the other lane, the car will straighten you out and bring you back to the middle. That's on by default. I've had to turn nothing on. I have driven some cars with that option as well. Some have it on by default and some have it on as an option. However, in this case, it is on by default. I'm going to try it out now. Making sure there's no one near me. So I have to say it's not working though. It has worked before. There we go. So it's gonna warm me. So that's a camera-based system, so it could be as we came around that bend, the sun glared up the lenses of the cameras which are guiding the system, and it could be that's why it didn't work back there. But for the most part, right now I'm already feeling the steering tugging me back to the middle of the lane. I mean, it's a great feature. You do have to get used to it. So the first time this happened this morning, I genuinely thought the car was about to skid because we were in rainy conditions. And but once you get used to it, I think it's obviously a fantastic safety feature to have. A lot of cars are coming with it. And another feature this has is the auto braking. So if it detects that the car in front of you or the cars or a pedestrian, etc., has crossed in the road, the car will warn you and brake. I did get the warning this morning. I didn't actually brake, but I did get the warning, which is nice to see. I mean, the only sort of other thing I didn't like about the car, I do speak about it in the other review as well, is the regen mode. So you do have quite a lot of regenerative modes to choose from. 4 in fact. However, even on the strongest option, it's just not strong enough or as strong as I would like it to be. I am used to driving other cars, my car, on nearly one pedal, literally, never having to really engage the brakes. And I can't say you can do this with this car. I think this is something you'll only appreciate once you've been driving an electric car for a while, because that's a very big difference coming from a petrol car. You use the regen or the charging of the battery as the vehicle is moving in your favor. So interesting thing, the journey from when I've started speaking to you, we've done 6.2 kilometers. To be fair, it was a downhill, so I have to keep that in mind. We will check out what I'm about to tell you once we go uphill again, but I am getting an efficiency of 10 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers at the moment, which is absolutely fantastic. But to be fair, that's only based on 6 kilometers and only based on a downhill. So downhill, the car is using much less energy. We're about to go uphill, so we will see what we're getting when we get to the top of the hill, because that efficiency rating is, I think, going to be a huge thing in the future. I mean, coming from the petrol era, electric cars are just insanely cheaper to run, and because they are very efficient compared to their petrol counterparts. But as we start entering an era where your only selection are electric cars, the efficiency certain brands are getting is to be noted. So let's try sport mode. How about that? Well, that's going to ruin my efficiency number. So maybe we'll keep that for a bit later, because that will definitely drop the efficiency rating. And to be fair, I am on normal mode. I'm not on eco mode, even with the efficiency I mentioned before. I mean, like any electric car, it's just, even though the car is naturally very heavy because of that battery pack, the power is absolutely flawless. You just press the pedal and it gives you power. Some people still have this impression that electric cars are weak, but they are the complete opposite of weak, because you press the pedal and the car just goes. Instant power, instant torque right away. So the steering wheel is also quite comfortable. In this case, in this spec model, it is heated, which I am liking on this cold day. Same are the seats underneath me, but the heated steering wheel is a nice added touch. And interesting shape, so not a fully round steering wheel, not too big and not too small either. I think it's a perfect. So there's the warning that the car in front of me was braking, and I hadn't reacted as fast as the car would have wanted me to. So again, we're seeing all these safety features which are becoming commonplace in all modern cars. So maybe you don't know, but every year when they do safety tests, they get 4-star, 5-star rating being the best. But what's important is the year. So for example, this car has a 2022 5-star safety rating, which would be a lot better than a 5-star rating in 2021, because the safety protocols always increase their strictness, so to speak, on the safety protocols. So this car, the results have just come out. It was tested at the very end of 2022. So great to see those 5 stars on the safety rating. So another cool thing about this car, actually, when you get in, and unless you've been told this, you might scratch your head for a good 5 minutes or even longer. So there is no place to put in the key, as is common these days, and there is no push to start button. The push to start is achieved with none other than your buttocks. So as soon as you put your butt on the seat, press the brake pedal, car comes on. Which is something I knew going into this review, picking up the car. And what I didn't know, and I was like questioning myself, well, how do I turn it off now, when I'm about to leave the car? But you get out, you lock, and it turns off. So that's how it actually turns off. But I think it's a fantastic feature, very easy, very simple, makes the whole thing ubiquitous, and I like it. So we're going up that hill now that I spoke to you about. Efficiency is at 12.4 kilowatt hour per 100 kilometers. Average speed just 31 kilometers per hour. which is very normal here in Malta. So we're starting to see that efficiency rating going up. Of course, the smaller that number, the more efficient the vehicle is. But I tell you, 12.4 is pretty good. So this is not I wouldn't say it's a small car. I'd say neither is it a big car though. It's a medium-sized vehicle. And 12.6 is pretty damn good. And they are getting that because, again, this is an all-electric, built from the ground up electric vehicle on the new SAIC platform. I talk plenty about that in my tech review, which I will link above and in the description. And it's the choices like those by the people building the cars which make the huge difference here in all the aspects of this vehicle, from the safety to the performance. It's doing that, pulling me back into the lane thing again. And I have to say, it does it quite aggressively. So I think it was the e-Niro, or the Niro EV rather, that we were driving a few months ago, and that also does the auto lane keep option. But I say the nudging that the steering wheel gives you is a lot stronger in this car. It really takes over and pushes you back to the middle. You do get blind spot detectors on the mirrors here, at least in this trim, highest level trim. I'm not 100% sure you're going to get that in the lowest trim level, but I genuinely love seeing them on the mirrors. It was one of the features I was really looking forward to in my car. Blind spot detectors. With all the motorbikes around, it's just an added safety feature that you really thank the second you need to use it. So it's a little light that turns on in the mirror, which notifies you if there's something here in your blind spot. And it's a real game changer, I think, for safety, because I've already avoided 2 accidents, motorcycles in fact, which, despite looking through the mirror and over my shoulder, I had genuinely not seen them. And yet the blind spot detector was flashing for me, and I knew something wasn't right. So I slowed down, and suddenly this motorcycle appears, in both cases, out of nowhere. So I really like that blind spot detector. So let me tell you, I think this car does stay true to those efficiency figures we spoke about in the tech-focused review. They vary depending on the model of this vehicle, because that's what I'm seeing here in the dashboard on this little drive. Another nice, neat feature of this car, which comes on when you engage the indicators, is the 4 cameras, which this car has, one in the front, one at the back, and on either side. And it turns them on so you can get a peek of what you have on the side as you're about to make a turn left and right. You also can activate 360 camera from your center console here and loop around and see your surroundings, essentially. Quite useful when parking the vehicle. I mean, the cabin as well. The cabin is very spacious, and you're getting that because this is a ground-up built electric vehicle. So this is only around 20 centimeters longer than my Peugeot E208. Yet the space inside the cabin and even in those back seats does feel a lot bigger. And that's because this is built from the ground up as an electric vehicle. No frunk though. We're gonna have to wait a bit for MG to give us a frunk in the MG4, because this version does not come with it, so no front space. So another thing I like about this car is the wireless charging pad for your phone here in the center console. It's nice and big, which is, we cannot say the same for other cars we've seen on the channel. And it also started charging my phone instantly. I didn't have to stay tweaking it around and moving it left and right till it found the right spot. So charging pad works flawlessly. And the phone has been charging all this time. The seat also on this spec model is, the driver's seat at least, is fully electric, so you can move it up and down, left and right, and adjust as necessary. Trying to find how I turn on the air recycle. It's not entirely obvious, I have to be honest, because I can't see it. So if there's any advice I give to the next... There's chickens in the roundabout. Chickens. If there's any advice I give to the next generation or the younger generation seeing these reviews, is your car will have a recycle button, and I suggest you keep that on at all times. Unfortunately, we've gone through a phase of history where car emissions were bad, and we've come to learn that they were even worse than what was written, and those cars are in the roads today. The auto manufacturers who are cheating these emission tests paid a huge fine, which is funding the EV revolution here for consumers, but those cars are still on the road despite polluting more than they stated to do. And you want to do yourself a favor and keep the recycle button on and windows up, in my opinion, because NOx kills. So again, a big thank you to MG Malta and Muscat Motors for letting me keep this MG4 for a bit longer than I usually do for these reviews. We've had the chance to go drive it around here and really get a feel for how it feels here on the Maltese roads. I mean, I've seen from my drive today that the efficiency ratings we mentioned in the other review, as I said, I am getting those here in the real world, so that's also a good sign. Temperature 13 degrees, so not as good as it can be as well. Of course, the ideal temperature for this car would be 21 degrees, because that's the temperature they are cooling that battery to. So whenever you're further away from that 21 degrees, the car is going to use more energy to cool the battery to the correct temperature. But more on that in my tech review. Check it out if you haven't seen it. As always, I'm Luke. This has been a drive in the MG4, and I hope I've convinced you that the future is electric.